Welcome back to the GCN Racing News Show, and I shall start by saying a very happy new year to you all. Let's make 2023 a great year. Coming up this week, I'll be looking back at one of the most exciting periods of cyclo-cross racing I have ever seen and bring you up to speed on what's coming up with World Tour road racing now less than 2 weeks away. First up, cyclo-cross, and my word, were we treated to some fantastic racing over the festive period. 6 thrilling races in the space of just 10 days, and for the vast majority, I think most fans, like me, were on the edges of our seats. Now, I'm not going to run through every single race, but I will give a summary of the highlights and tell you who's currently coming out on top in the battle of the big three: Van der Poel, Van Aert or Pidcock. The pinnacle of that battle, for me at least, came last Wednesday evening at the floodlit Super Prestige in Diegem. It was everything you could ever want, really, from a bike race: dramatic, tense and coming right down to the wire. Pidcock looked the strongest at the start, with Van Aert and Van der Poel forced to chase behind him, but on lap 2, it was Van der Poel who had pulled out a small advantage through one of the sand sections, and when that was pulled back, he went again on lap 4, with Van Aert showing signs of fatigue at that point in the race. By the end of lap 5, Van der Poel had a 9-second advantage over Pidcock, 13 over Van Aert, and it looked like it might be game over. But whilst the leader opted for a bike change that lap, the chasers skipped the pits and it all came back together. A resurgent Van Aert was the next to create a gap on his rivals, holding 7 seconds with 2 laps remaining, but again it all came back together. Next it was Pidcock on the attack, and this time only Van Aert was able to go with him. The two were locked together as the bell rang out, and it was an incredible final lap. Both riders fought for every metre, every bit of space, swapping the lead multiple times. Every time it looked like one of them was on the front foot, the other would find a way past. In the end, Van Aert edged in front at a crucial point, flying into and up the steps for the final time and taking one of the most hard-fought victories he's ever had. Pidcock had to settle for second, with Van der Poel in third. So, who has come out on top in the battle of the big three? Well, they've been head-to-head 6 times so far this season, and Van Aert has come out on top by some margin. Of those 6 races, he has won 4, whilst Van der Poel has won 2, and therefore Pidcock none. In fact, the only race in which Pidcock beat either of those 2 was in the floodlit race in Diegem that I was just talking about. So is it the big 3, or is it really just the big 2? Well, it's hard to say. In 4 of those 6 races, those 3 filled all 3 steps of the podium, and so they are generally a level above the rest, but Pidcock himself has confessed that he doesn't have and never will have the raw power of the other 2, who are significantly heavier, and so there are only going to be so many times that the terrain favours his lighter frame. What do you reckon? Is it the big 3 or the big 2 in men's cyclo-cross at the moment? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section just down below. Now, one thing is for sure, Van der Poel is not used to losing this much to Van Aert in cyclo-cross. If you go on to cyclocross24.com and look at their head-to-head battles, 117 times Van der Poel has finished in front of Van Aert, whilst only 58 has Van Aert finished in front of Van der Poel. And of course, most of those occasions, one of them won the race. Now, the last time that Van Aert won 4 times out of 6 consecutive races against Van der Poel was 7 years ago in December of 2015. And it's going to be interesting to see if Van der Poel can turn the tables in January and into the World Championships in February. He certainly won't like being outshone, as he has been over the last few weeks by Van Aert, despite his 2 big wins himself. On the women's side, the absence of Fem van Empel, who took time out to recover from the injuries that she sustained in Val di Sole, I think most of us expected complete dominance from Poek Pieterse. However, she's only raced twice since then and only won once. That was at the Super Prestige on that floodlit race in Diegem, but at the World Cup in Gavra on Boxing Day, which was her opportunity to significantly close the gap to Van Empel in the overall standings, she could only manage 3rd. After a good start, she fell right down the order and actually did well to salvage a 3rd place by the end. The rider she had shared the lead with in the early stages, Shirin van Androoy, took the win on the day, although she did briefly have company late in the race from her teammate Lucinda Brandt, who for a moment looked like she might just steal Van Androoy's thunder, but it wasn't to be in the end. The most notable performance of that day, though, in my opinion, came from Zoe Bagstedt, who finished 4th, just 11 seconds behind Poek Pieterse, at just 18 years of age. Since then, though, Van Empel has returned to competition with a new bike and a new kit to boot. One of the weird things about cyclo-cross is that the contracts still run from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, so you get riders swapping teams and equipment midway through the season. Van Empel is now racing in the colours of Jumbo-Visma on a Cervelo bike with SRAM components. But for the rest, though, it was business as usual for her on New Year's Day in Bar. She sailed to the win after going clear on the opening lap. In the end, she finished a whopping 2 minutes clear of Lucinda Brunt in second. In the men's race there, in the absence of the big two, Pidcock started as the big favourite and looked to be living up to that for the vast majority of the race. Until this happened.
And as we said, used to be teammates with Tom Pidcock. We start, ooh, you got to be, so this is where it can all come undone, Jens, this descent, and this will allow Iserbyt and Van Turenhout back in. You've got to be so careful on that descent, and even the Olympic mountain bike champion had a lucky escape there.
A nasty looking crash that left him with blood on his leg and suddenly battling for a win that had seemed in the bag just moments before. He did his best to fight back as Iserbyt and Michael Van Turenhout passed him, but the crash had knocked more out of him than he'd bargained for, and he would cross the line bitterly disappointed in third. This is what he had to say about the incident in his post-race interview, where Pidcock also revealed yesterday that he will not be defending his rainbow jersey at the upcoming World Championships.
Little bit shaken, but yeah, it was a bit stupid crash. But yeah, I hope it was on TV at least.
Final question: your team told us that you won't be riding the World Championships. Is that final? Is it a final decision?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, to be honest, I knew for a while that I wouldn't be riding. So yeah, it's that was a decision made quite a while ago.
A shame that you won't be defending it, but I guess also understandable when you're trying to combine 3 different disciplines. You've got to make some hard choices at times. Taking full advantage of Pidcock's fall was Iserbyt, who took his first win in over 2 months yesterday. In his post-race interview, he revealed that he had considered stopping for the season, such was the pain from the injuries that he sustained over the last few weeks. But I'm sure that he's glad he didn't make that decision now. Moving on, and we had some action on the road last week with the Bay Crits in Australia, with some familiar names topping the podiums on day one. Defending champion Ruby Roseman Gannon has clearly had a good training block in the off-season. She outsprinted Amanda Spratt for the win at the end of the race, but had been in a couple of moves early on in the race too. And it was the same the following day. But despite a very strong group going clear, it did come down to another sprint, with Roseman Gannon making it 2 from 2, getting the better of Keely Bennett to the line. In the men's, in what was a role reversal from this time last year on day one, Blake Quick provided the lead out for Brenton Jones, who made it look easy, freewheeling the last few metres to take the win and the leader's jersey. It didn't go Jones's way on day 2 though. A tight battle to get into the last corner in good position meant he unclipped from his pedal and lost a lot of momentum. Taking full advantage was Graham Frisley, who not only took the win on day 2, but moved into the leader's yellow jersey, which he'll be wearing for the 3rd of the 3 races tomorrow. Right, what have we got in store for you this week on GCN Plus? Well, it's another busy one in the world of cyclo-cross. The X2O series continues with 2 more rounds. Tomorrow they're competing in Herentals, whilst on Friday it's in the sand of Koksijde. On Saturday it's the next round of the Super Prestige series in Kuligum, and you'll be able to watch all of the above races worldwide excluding Belgium. Then on Sunday it's the next round of the UCI World Cup on another famous course in Zonhoven, home to some epic sand dunes. Now, if you've never seen it before, here is a quick clip from a video we did a few years back with former CX pro Jeremy Powers and cyclo-cross novice Ollie Bridgewood.
A lot of riders, first thing they do wrong, they're looking right here at the, where they're trying to go, trying to follow the thing like that. It's a bad look. Why? Because weight's all over the front of this, and that's the wrong place to be. You want to get your weight as far back, like you're a mountain biker, like you've got like you're way over the back of the bike. You've got it way out in front of you, and that way all of your weight is on the back, and it's very light on the front tire. So your front tire is just kind of going into the rut. It's finding its way on its own. As soon as you put weight on the front tire, that's when it digs in, and that, unfortunately, as you found out, That's when you go over the bars.
Still got sand in my teeth.
It is an absolutely fantastic course. So well worth tuning in to GCN Plus on Sunday to watch it. Territory restrictions apply. Van Aert and Van der Poel will both be starting on the men's side, whilst Fem van Empel and Puk Pieterse will no doubt continue their battle in the women's race. However, beyond cyclo-cross, we've also got some road racing for you this week. Yes, you heard that correctly. Doesn't feel like long ago that the 2022 season drew to a close, but this week it's the Australian National Championships in Ballarat. On Friday, we've got the Criterium, Saturday the under-23 races, and then on Sunday the elite have their turn. Defending champions Luke Plapp and Nicole Frayne will be there, along with the likes of Amanda Spratt, Rachel Neylan, Caleb Ewan, Ben O'Connor, Simon Clark and Michael Matthews, incidentally, who's making his first appearance since 2014. Jay Vine will also be there in his new colours of UAE Team Emirates. Those races will be available to watch everywhere except Australia on GCN Plus, and if you don't fancy getting up in the middle of the night to watch the events, we will of course have them on demand so you can watch them when you wish. It's going to be great actually to have some road racing back on our screens, isn't it? Speaking of which, our attention will soon turn to the Tours Down Under, which return in less than 2 weeks from now. That will be for the first time in 3 years. The women's race runs from the 15th to the 17th of January and the men's from the 17th to the 22nd. And it will be our first real opportunity to see the new bikes and kits of 2023 and start to get used to riders in different teams. So now is the perfect time to make sure you catch every unmissable moment in 2023 with an annual GCN Plus subscription. It's going to save you over 50% on the cost of taking out 12 monthly subscriptions, and it will give you access to all of our live and uninterrupted race coverage throughout the year that's available in your area, including one-day classics, grand tours and major stage races. And don't forget that this year, the Giro d'Italia and all the other RCS races, including San Remo and Strade Bianche, are live in all GCN Plus territories, including New Zealand. And if you're worried that you won't have time to catch all the action, and I would understand why because there's a lot of it, GCN Plus will continue to give you full replays on demand, as well as a variety of highlight packages, from as short as 5 minutes to up to half an hour, or just watch the last few kilometres. We will also be back very soon with our exclusive weekly World of Cycling show. So however you choose to watch, with GCN Plus, you'll see every key moment in 2023, no matter how little time you have. Right, in other news, next year we'll see the first ever Tour de France start in Italy. And I've got to say, the first of the 3 stages on Italian soil looks epic by first stage standards. 205 kilometres from Florence to Rimini, with no fewer than 7 categorised climbs, and they're not easy. I can't remember the last time the Tour de France started with such a tough stage. Day 2 will start on the Adriatic coastline in Cesenatico, making its way to Bologna over a series of short, sharp climbs that will again make it very hard for any sprinters to reach the line at the head of the race. They will likely get their first opportunity on stage 3 though, into Turin. And with all 3 days though over 200 kilometres in length, Italy is certainly going to get its money's worth. New kit time now, as there have been a whole host of new releases over the last couple of weeks, one of which was leaked by good old Andre Amador, who posted this picture on New Year's Day in an Instagram reel. As yet, it is unconfirmed whether this is the official EF kit for 2023. It could be a training kit, I suppose, but it certainly looks like it could be what they'll be riding in this year. That post has since been deleted. Team Bike Exchange have a new kit and a new name, Joko Alula, with Alula being a resort in Saudi Arabia. This is the design of the men's kit, and this is the kit for the women's team. Not too dissimilar to last year's versions, despite the new headline sponsor. Movistar have also kept on a similar theme with the dark blue top, but this year with black shorts, whilst UAE's kit looks almost exactly the same to me. That said, it's going to take me a while to get used to seeing Adam Yates in it, and it's also going to take me a while to get used to seeing Alexander Kristoff in his new Uno X kit, even though he only spent 1 year with Intermarché Wanty Gobert. And finally, this is the women's Israel Premier Tech design, which I personally think looks really nice. But as a reminder, it's not about what I think or anybody else here at GCN. It's how you vote on the hottest kits of 23 over on the GCN app that counts. And in a couple of weeks' time, we'll let you know the decisive winners of the hottest kits in 2023. Right, on to rider schedules now, and we've had some more insights into the whereabouts of world champion Remco Evenepoel in the early season. He will be headed to the Vuelta a San Juan in Argentina at the end of January, a race he won 3 years ago, and then it sounds like his next appointment could be the UAE Tour, and that in turn sets up a tantalising prospect of a head-to-head in the early season with Tadej Pogačar, who's won that race for the last 2 years in succession. Primoz Roglic is the latest rider to add his name to the Giro d'Italia, which in turn means that Jonas Vingegaard will be the sole GC leader for Jumbo-Visma at the Tour de France. An interesting one that, especially considering that Roglic had such a long enforced layoff after crashing out of the Vuelta. I mean, you'd have thought he'd wanted a little longer to get back onto top form. But still, great for the race itself, which already has a star-studded start list confirmed, with still over 4 months until the start. And finally, the UCI has shaken up their points distribution, which means that there will be more points available during World Tour stage races and Grand Tours, more available at World Champs and Olympic Games, and fewer relative points for the smaller one-day races. They've also attributed more points to the biggest one-day races, i.e. the monuments, so that they carry more than some of the smaller one-day World Tour races, such as the Grand Prix Montreal, for example. Previously, they were on a par. And it's going to be interesting to see what effect that has on start lists and the way that some of those races are raced, particularly considering that it's going to be the top 20 point scorers per team that count to that team's ranking, rather than the 10 it was previously. Right, that is all for the first GCN Racing news show of 2023, but I'll be back with a roundup of all the cyclo-cross racing and the first road racing of the year, this time next week. See you then.